Hi guys, what's up? As promised, I'm back in 3 minutes. So चालू करते हैं. And today we are discussing environment and ecology. And I'll just compare थोड़ा बता देता हूँ. कई लोग भूल जाते हैं कि हमने कुछ पढ़ाई भी करी है कि नहीं करी. So सबसे पहले हमने इंट्रोडक्शन से चालू किया था. सिलेबस, इम्पोर्टेंस, वेटेज, ट्रेंड एनालिसिस, स्ट्रैटेजी, बुक्स, अप्रोच, ये सब कुछ डिस्कस किया था. फिर उसके बाद हमने प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चन पेपर्स किए थे पूरे प्रीलिम्स के. राइट, डू यू रिमेंबर दैट? याद है ना, या भूल गए? फिर उसके बाद हमने डिस्कस किया था प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चन पेपर एनवायरनमेंट के. फिर उसके बाद हमने डिस्कस किए थे प्रीलिम्स और मेंस के. फिर उसके बाद हमने कवर किया था बेसिक साइंटिफिक कॉन्सेप्ट्स टू स्टडी एनवायरनमेंट एंड इकोलॉजी. फिर उसके बाद हमने डिस्कस किया था बेसिक्स ऑफ इकोलॉजी एंड इकोसिस्टम. ओके. सो फिर उसके बाद हमने डिस्कस किया था इकोसिस्टम, वेरियस कॉन्सेप्ट्स, टाइप्स एंड फंक्शंस. Then we had discussed world biomes. Then we had discussed biomes in India. Right? ठीक है. तो ये सब कुछ हम अच्छे से कवर कर चुके हैं. Now tell me, have we discussed this topic called as artificial ecosystems? Have we covered that? अभी तक नहीं पढ़ा है ना शायद artificial ecosystem. ठीक है. और have we discussed this topic about एटमॉस्फेयर वगैरह? वो सब तो मैंने पढ़ा दिया था ना. थर्मोस्फेयर, आयनोस्फेयर, एग्जोस्फेयर, ये सब तो ठीक है. एजेंट्स ऑफ चेंज इन द एटमॉस्फेयर, टेम्परेचर, प्रेसिपिटेशन. ठीक है. तो पहले हमारा एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक है आर्टिफिशियल इकोसिस्टम का. इसको आज कवर करते हैं बिकॉज इससे काफ़ी क्वेश्चन बनते हैं. ठीक है. 1 लाइनर, 2 लाइनर, काफ़ी बहुत सारे क्वेश्चन आते हैं. सो आई होप ऑल ऑफ यू आर रेडी. बढ़िया संडे निकल रहा है. राइट, मेरे को तो याद है हमारे टाइम पे जब मैं छोटा था, 9th 10th में पढ़ता था, या फिर 1999 2000 में जब 3rd 4th में पढ़ता था, संडे मतलब कुछ कर ही नहीं सकते थे. देयर वर नो रिसोर्स टू स्टडी. अगर किसी की इच्छा है तो अपनी बुक से पढ़ सकता है, बट दैट्स अबाउट इट. राइट, नाउ यू हैव लाइक संडे बिल्कुल मस्त जा रहा है. आपको ज़्यादा एफर्ट भी नहीं डालना पड़ता. ठीक है. सो डाउट क्लियरिंग सेशन आर्टिफिशियल इकोसिस्टम. सो लेट अस गेट स्टार्टेड. वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट इंडीड. ऑलराइट, इसको आप अच्छे से देखो यहाँ पे और फिर हम चालू करते हैं. तो आर्टिफिशियल इकोसिस्टम्स. सो आपको जैसे जितना भी आपने आसपास देखा है, आपने आपने एग्रीकल्चर देखा है. एग्रीकल्चर इज एन आर्टिफिशियल इकोसिस्टम. इट्स यूजुअली इट्स अ मोनोकल्चर. राइट, एक ही क्रॉप ग्रो करते हैं. इट्स अ ओलिगोकल्चर. अ फ्यू क्रॉप्स आर ग्रोन. इसको काफ़ी लोग बोलते हैं सिंप्लीफाइड इकोसिस्टम. राइट, क्योंकि जो फॉरेस्ट होता है उसमें बहुत सारी स्पीसीज होती हैं, बट जो एग्रीकल्चर होता है उसमें हम स्पीसीज का काफ़ी कम कर देते हैं. इजंट इट? So we reduce the number of species quite a lot. So एग्रो इकोसिस्टम्स होते हैं, प्लांटेशन फॉरेस्ट होते हैं, अर्बन इकोसिस्टम्स होते हैं, रूरल इकोसिस्टम्स, एक्वाकल्चर, डैम्स, रिजर्वॉयर्स, डाइवर्जन्स, एक्सेट्रा. So all these are the various things. All right. So agro ecosystems, plantation forest, urban ecosystem, rural ecosystem, aquaculture, dams, reservoirs, diversions, etc. So let us get started with artificial ecosystems. Any ecosystem which is modified by human beings is called as artificial ecosystem. समझ रहे हो? So any ecosystem which is modified by human beings for various other requirements, it is called as artificial requirements. Okay. So now artificial ecosystem can still depend on solar energy or on the fossil fuels. So that is not an issue. But any ecosystem which is modified by humans for various requirements, they are called as artificial ecosystems. And they can definitely depend on solar energy, fossil fuels, etc. That is not at all a point of contention. Okay. Now, some of the artificial ecosystem dependent on solar energy are agricultural fields, aquaculture ponds, etc. समझ रहे हो? जैसे एग्रीकल्चर फील्ड्स है, आप उसमें ऊपर से एनर्जी थोड़ी डालते हो. बेसिकली पेड़ हैं तो सोलर एनर्जी से ही तो चलते हैं. राइट. फॉर एग्जांपल अगर पॉन्ड इकोसिस्टम है, पॉन्ड इकोसिस्टम में जो फाइटोप्लैंक्टॉन्स वगैरह होंगे, दे आर टोटली बेस्ड ऑन सोलर एनर्जी. राइट. नाउ there are other industrial ecosystems also which derives power from, let us say, फॉसिल फ्यूल्स एक्सेट्रा. सो वो भी हैं, दोनों तरीके की चीज़ें एग्जिस्ट करती हैं. तो जस्ट टू गिव यू कॉन्टेक्स्ट, बोथ ऑफ द थिंग्स एग्जिस्ट. ऑलराइट. सो ऐसा नहीं कि एक चीज है एक चीज नहीं है, सो बोथ ऑफ द थिंग्स एग्जिस्ट. ओके. So natural ecosystems are modified because of mainly three reasons. See, our population is increasing like anything, right? Just 200 years ago, we were 1 billion people. Now we are almost 8 billion people, right? तो एक्स्ट्रा 7 बिलियन लोग आ गए अर्थ के ऊपर जस्ट लास्ट 150-200 साल में, विच इज़ अ ह्यूमंगस नंबर, इजंट इट? सो जस्ट लास्ट 150-200 साल में, if you have extra so many people, it creates a huge issue. So increasing human population, increasing human requirements, changing lifestyles, etc. So all this forces human beings to make a lot of natural ecosystems. So please remember that fact. Okay, very very important. Now some of the characteristics of artificial ecosystem are. Can you see all this? Can you see all this? So please remember these facts. It's very very important, and this is applicable to agricultural fields. That is why you have to use so many insect. कभी आपने देखा है ट्रॉपिकल रेन फॉरेस्ट में जाके कोई इंसेक्टिसाइड छिड़क रहा है, कोई पेस्टिसाइड छिड़क रहा है, कोई वहाँ पे नाइट्रोजन फास्फोरस पोटेशियम फर्टिलाइजर डाल रहा है, कोई वहाँ पे इरिगेशन कर रहा है, कोई उसको ठंड से बचा रहा है, कोई उसको गर्मी से बचा रहा है, कोई टाइम पे काट रहा है? नथिंग लाइक दैट, राइट? That forest has been existing for millions of years, that will keep on existing for millions of years, right? It doesn't need human beings intervention whatsoever for its survival. It is a perfectly stable system. It is in perfect harmony with nature because it is very complex. So food web exists in nature, not food chain. ये मैंने आपको एक पहले भी स्टेटमेंट बोला था, right? In nature food web exists, not food chain. The simplified food chain does not exist in nature, but they will exist in these artificial ecosystems. So they are very very simple, very very simple. एक प्रोड्यूसर दो कंज्यूमर उस टाइप से, ठीक है, या दो प्रोड्यूसर तीन कंज्यूमर, वेरी वेरी सिंपल. एंड बिकॉज ऑफ दैट फैक्ट कि वहाँ पे पूरे प्लांट, पूरी फील्ड में शायद वीट ही उग रहा है, या पूरी फील्ड में शायद राइस ही उग रहा है, या पूरी फील्ड में शायद मेज ही, इट्स हाईली अनस्टेबल, इजंट इट? क्योंकि कल को अगर कोई बीमारी फैल गई जो पूरे वीट को डिस्ट्रॉय कर दिया, या मेज को डिस्ट्रॉय कर दिया, या फिर कुछ हो गया, so because it is so unstable, it will create absolute destruction, right? So it is highly simplified, it is highly unstable, there is less species diversity over here, right? So highly simplified, highly unstable, less species diversity, simple small food chains, isn't it? Because it has simple and small food chains. Why does it have simple and small food chains? Because there are less species diversity, right? So what is the root problem? Root problem is less species diversity, isn't it? Because there are less number of species, there is simple and small food chain, right? So this is number one, this is number two. And because there are simple and small food chain, it is highly simplified, and because of that it is highly unstable, right? समझ में आ रहा है सर? अभी तक कोई शक, कोई दिक्कत, कोई लोड लाइफ में किसी तरीके का? नाउ देयर इज अ ह्यूज डिपेंडेंस ऑन ह्यूमन बीइंग्स. अगर मान लो आप अपनी एग्रीकल्चरल फील्ड का ध्यान नहीं रखो, क्या वीट ग्रो हो सकता है हर साल? क्या राइस अपने आप ग्रो होता रहेगा हर साल इफ यू डोंट केयर अबाउट इट? सो आंसर इज, इट इज इम्पॉसिबल. ह्यूमन बीइंग्स इंटरवेंशन इज रिक्वायर्ड, otherwise wheat rice cannot grow. Dependence on fossil fuels, it's a huge dependence on fossil fuels. They are very susceptible to weeds, right? खरपतवार जिसको बोलते हैं, they are very susceptible to diseases, right? And they are highly susceptible to erosion. So these are some of the huge problems which are there: high susceptibility to weeds, high susceptibility to diseases, high susceptibility to erosion. Huge problems, and someone needs to like take care of this. Okay. Now some of the artificial ecosystems are agriculture, plantation. Now there is a difference between agricultural crops and plantation crops. I hope you know that. So plantation crops are done for the commercial crops like coffee plantation, tea plantation, sugarcane plantation. Agriculture is mostly done for consumption based crops. Okay. So you will not eat tea, coffee, sugarcane, right? You will derive some products out of tea, coffee, sugarcane, rubber. So please remember that tea, coffee, sugarcane, rubber, all these are typical example of plantation crops. They are done at a huge scale, and you are basically, even cocoa to some extent. Yes, you are right. So cotton plantations. So all these are not the primary products. आप समझ रहे हो? All these are called as so-called cash crops. They are not eaten as such. Tobacco plantation is also a good example. So tea, coffee, rubber, sugarcane, cocoa, cotton, tobacco, you don't eat them directly, right? Isn't it? सो टी का से चाय बनाओगे, कॉफी से कॉफी बनाओगे, रबर से रबर बनाओगे, शुगर केन से चीनी बनाओगे, कोको से कोको पाउडर बनाओगे, कॉटन से धागा निकालोगे, टोबैको से तंबाकू बनाओगे, राइट? So the point being that, but let's say wheat से आप directly you can consume wheat, rice you can consume, right? Maize you can consume, lentils you can consume. So I hope that part is clear. Not much processing is required. आप बस पेड़ से तोड़ो और खा जाओ भुट्टे को, right? I've done it so many times in my village. सीधे तोड़ा और खा गए उसको. So agro ecosystem, plantation forest, urban ecosystems, rural ecosystems, aquaculture, industrial areas, laboratory cultures. Let us discuss them one by one. So agro ecosystems are those regions in which commercial crops are cultivated. Okay. So crops of economical value are shown here. Okay. So regions in which commercial crops are cultivated, they are called as the agro ecosystems. All right. So इसको आप याद कर लेना. So region in which commercial crops are cultivated are called as agro ecosystems, and crops of economical values are shown here. Let us see. Usually only one crop is sown because of pest. Lot of pesticides are required because of low fertility of the soil. Fertilizers are required, isn't it? Only one crop is sown. Pesticides are required. Fertility of the soil is affected, so fertilizers are required because they are not selected. Let's say Punjab and Haryana is not very well suitable to grow rice, isn't it? Punjab and Haryana, climatically speaking and water requirement wise speaking, they're not very suitable to grow rice. But the point is, the crops are not selected according to the climatic conditions in an area. Okay. So, because crops are not selected according to the climatic conditions in an area, so irrigation, management, etc., they are required. And high care is required for a good yield. So, that is also very, very important. So, crops are not selected according to the climatic conditions. Irrigation and management are required. High care is required definitely for a good yield. If you want to have high care, then for a good yield this is definitely required. Okay, now let's talk about economic significance. So crops are selected according to the demands or needs of man. Okay, obviously. So first of all, the number one thing is it needs to be edible, right? If you are doing growing something for agricultural purposes, they need to be edible. अगर वो edible ही नहीं होंगी तो it will not work out. So it helps in fulfilling the food requirements of man, and because crops and demands are grown, it also gives money to farmers. And like earlier it was 60%, now it is roughly around 50% of the population. This is like for as long as the job is concerned. So this is livelihood. Technically 100% of us are dependent on agriculture, isn't it? तो obvious सी बात है. So मतलब बिना एग्रीकल्चर के कैसे, आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट एज अ लाइवलीहुड, एज अ सोर्स ऑफ लाइवलीहुड. So do not confuse these two things. All right. So इनको आप confuse मत करना. So yeah, that is also somewhat confusing. Now disadvantage is monoculture. If you just grow one crop, if you cultivate a single crop, it leads to loss in fertility of the soil, diversity of plants, animals, insects, isn't it? यार अगर आपके पास 10 प्लांट हैं तो उस पर 100 इंसेक्ट्स रह सकते हैं, राइट? आपके पास एक ही प्लांट है तो उस पर शायद 5 ही इंसेक्ट रह पाएंगे, isn't it? So plants, animals, insects, everyone goes down. Large scale use of pesticides do a lot of pollution of environment, goes to groundwater, rivers, lakes. It can result in biomagnification. Then DDT, dichlorodiphenyl trichloroethane, was used as a pesticide in India. So it is now classified as a POP, persistent organic pollutant. Okay, आप समझ रहे हो? So DDT was used as pesticide in India 50s, 60s, 70s में. Now it is a huge persistent organic pollutant. It is leading to destruction of eagle population, bird population, etc. because it goes in their shell, जो egg shell होता है, and it makes it very brittle. Can you remember this fact? So DDT क्या होता है? Because it undergoes a phenomena called as biomagnification. तो पहले phytoplankton में जाएगा, फिर zooplankton में जाएगा, तो it will keep on concentrating. By the time it reaches on top birds which eat fishes, तो उनके जो अंडे होंगे, अंडे जो एग शेल होता है, उसमें DDT पहुंच जाएगा, and it will make it like really brittle. All right. So the egg shell will become really brittle. So DDT is now classified as a persistent organic pollutant, POP, because it accumulates in fatty tissues. It can travel long distance in the upper atmosphere. ठीक है सर? I hope this part is absolutely clear. So please remember this, very very important. Is it an academy's test series? मतलब इसमें ट्रॉफिक लेवल का कोई लोड ही नहीं है ना. ट्रॉफिक लेवल कौन सी डेफिनेशन में आ गया? मतलब टेक्निकली स्पीकिंग, लेट्स से you and your wife may not be on the same trophic level, right? Isn't it? You and your wife may not be on the same trophic level. आप हो सकता है आप सिर्फ पेड़ खाते हो और वो शायद अंडे खाती हो, राइट? और चिकन खाती हो. डू यू अंडरस्टैंड? सो हाउ आर यू ऑन द सेम ट्रॉफिक लेवल? मतलब थियोरेटिकली बिल्कुल ही, तो कॉमन सेंस है ना. मतलब वी आर नॉट ऑन द सेम ट्रॉफिक लेवल. यू आर अ प्राइमरी कंज्यूमर, शी इज सेकेंडरी कंज्यूमर और मे बी टर्शरी कंज्यूमर. सो और मतलब ट्रॉफी देखो, अननेसेसरी कंफ्यूज होने की जरूरत नहीं. मैंने क्या पढ़ाया था आपको? मेंबर्स आर केपेबल ऑफ इंटरब्रीडिंग टू प्रोड्यूस फर्टाइल ऑफस्प्रिंग, यही पढ़ाया था ना मैंने आपको. तो फिर क्यों दिमाग लगाना है अपना? जब रोमन सैनी ने पढ़ा दिया तो एक बार आगे बढ़ो, फिर क्यों परेशान होना है उसमें? आई डोंट अंडरस्टैंड. मैंने बोला था भाई, इंटरब्रीड करने चाहिए और फर्टाइल ऑफस्प्रिंग होने चाहिए, राइट? और एक ही पॉपुलेशन के होने चाहिए, ऑब्वियस सी बात है, वो तो मैंने आपको बताया था, राइट? एक ही पॉपुलेशन के होने चाहिए, बिकॉज पॉपुलेशन बेसिकली मीन्स वन स्पीसीज. तो डिसिमिलर पॉपुलेशन के कर भी देंगे तो वो फर्टाइल होते नहीं है, जैसे मैंने आपको बताया था. मान लो एक आध फर्टाइल भी हो जाते हैं तो दैट इज ऑल्सो नॉट कंसिडर्ड दैट. ओके. समटाइम्स सम ऑफ दीज ऑफस्प्रिंग्स आर फर्टाइल ऑल्सो, बट दे आर नॉट कवर्ड. ओके. बायोमैग्निफिकेशन बता दो अच्छी तरीके से. आपका डीडीटी पानी में है तो मान लो फाइटोप्लैंक्टन में है, उसकी कॉन्सेंट्रेशन 0.0001. फिर जू प्लैंक्टन में हो गई 0.001, ठीक है. स्मॉल फिश में हो गई 0.01. लार्ज फिश में हो गई 0.1. और जब ऊपर तक गया बर्ड में तो 1 हो गई. समझ में आया पॉइंट? कॉन्सेंट्रेट होता गया ना बायोमैग्निफिकेशन. ओके. Bioaccumulation is simple storage, all right. Biomagnification is actually increasing in concentration as you go on the top, on the same, like in the food chain or a food web. So, my difference. I hope that part is clear. We will discuss this later on also. This is not the right time. So because it undergoes persistence in environment and it is a persistent organic pollutant, it undergoes what is called as biomagnification, which is increase in concentration. As it moves higher up in the food chain, it affects plants, it affects animals, it affects human health. So DDT is banned for agricultural use in India, but I still know that it is used widely, isn't it? तो बैन तो कहने की बात होती है, कुछ बैन शैन नहीं है. खूब बढ़िया यूज होता है, मतलब रोज मच्छर मारने में लोग अभी भी यूज करते हैं. So selecting crops based on their economical value ends up in water intensive crops being sown in water scarce areas. Okay, समझ रहे हो? So because you grow crop like rice, so Punjab and Haryana ki this is a huge problem because the crops are grown based on rice. So this creates a huge issue, isn't it? A huge issue is created because of this. So this leads to more water scarcity. It becomes important in the scenario of climate change, global warming, etc. Now, agriculture, as you all know, is the mainstay of Indian economy, but it is dependent on monsoons because nearly 55.7% of the agricultural area is dependent on rainfall, right? So, agriculture is definitely mainstay of the Indian economy. I'll not deny it. Indian agriculture is dependent on monsoon, because roughly 60%, 55%. But this number will very soon change, all right? So, according to the प्रधानमंत्री कृषि सिंचाई योजना 2022 या 2023 में India will, for the first time ever in last 10,000 years, will not be majorly rain dependent. समझ रहे हो? जब से इंडिया में एग्रीकल्चर चालू हुआ है, लास्ट 6,000 8,000 साल से चल रहा है, वी आर ऑलवेज बीन अ मेजरली रेनफॉल डिपेंडेंट, राइट? बट दिस नंबर विल चेंज. ओके, समझ रहे हो क्या पॉइंट? बिकॉज ऑफ इरिगेशन सर, आर्टिफिशियल रेन कहाँ से आ गई? सो बिकॉज ऑफ इरिगेशन मेजोरिटी ऑफ द लैंड विल बी इरिगेटेड। जैसे एक स्टेटमेंट बोलते हैं ना, इंडिया इज अ लैंड ऑफ विलेजेस। सो लास्ट 10,000 साल से इंडिया में लोग हमेशा विलेजेस में ही रह रहे हैं, जब से सिविलाइजेशन चालू हुई है बेसिक। बट But listen to this. In 30 years, it will change. Okay. India will become a land of cities. Because after 30 years, majority of the people in India will live in cities. Right now, it is 69-31. In 2021 census, I'm pretty sure it will change to 35-65 or even more. And then it will change to 50-50. So, anyway. So, because agriculture is very important, we are the largest producer of milk, pulses, jute. We are second in rice, wheat, sugarcane, groundnut, vegetables, fruits and cotton. ये किसकी अच्छे से लिस्ट बना लेना, जो ज्योग्राफी स्टूडेंट्स हैं उनको काम आएगी। सो ज्योग्राफी स्टूडेंट्स प्लीज मेक अ लिस्ट ऑफ व्हाट वी आर नंबर वन, व्हाट वी आर नंबर टू। ठीक है। वी आर ऑल्सो वन ऑफ द लीडिंग प्रोड्यूसर ऑफ प्लांटेशन क्रॉप्स, स्पाइसेस, पोल्ट्री, लाइफ स्टॉक, फिश एक्सेट्रा। सो basically household wise it is very high. It is the largest source of livelihood. 50% of people in India are dependent on it. 82% of farmers in India are small and marginal farmers, right? And agriculture alone is not sufficient, so we also do agri allied sectors like animal husbandry, forestry, fisheries. It has enhanced livelihood opportunities, strengthened resilience, and it leads to considerable increase in labor force participation in the sector. Okay, समझ रहे हो? So labor force participation rate increases. All these are very, very important points which you need to remember about agriculture. Technical team did not respond any number to contact them. So there is no number as such, but you can just drop in. Okay, an email at help@unacademy.com. It will be taken care of. So though there is a huge food production in India, we have still quarter of the world's hungry people. Now this hungry does not mean that they will die of hunger. All right. But if you see global hunger index, all that, we are the one of the worst performing countries in the entire world, right? So it does not mean that people are dying of hunger in India. That is not the case. Is it clear? 102 नंबर पे आते हैं हम, but that is not the case. Okay, people are not dying of hunger कि खाने के लिए खाना ही नहीं है बिल्कुल, but they are not nourished. They don't know where they are not eating properly. They are not having 3 meals a day. समझ रहे हो? So that is very, very important. So India as a country has achieved self-sufficiency in the production of grains, but it is very cereal-centric, resource-intensive, regionally biased, etc. And resource-intensive methods of Indian agriculture has raised serious concerns of sustainability. Right? Sustainable हो ही नहीं पाएगा सर. It's impossible. If you are, it is very regionally biased. जैसे कि ग्रीन रिवॉल्यूशन था, आपका पूरा हरियाणा, पंजाब, वेस्टर्न यूपी, दिल्ली, ये वाला जो बेल्ट है पूरा हो गया, एंड इट इज़ वेरी रिसोर्स इंटेंसिव एंड इट वाज लॉट ऑफ पेस्टिसाइड्स और यूज, उसके काफ़ी सारे सीरियल सेंट्रिक है ना हमारा। क्या ग्रो करते हैं हमारे? राइस, व्हीट, मेज, यही तो 3 चीज़ें होती हैं, सीरियल्स होते हैं ना। मेजर एग्रीकल्चर इन इंडिया इज जस्ट अबाउट राइस, wheat and maize, that's it. You see productions, so these are the top like plants. उसके अलावा क्या होता है, रीजनली बायस तो है, एक रिसोर्स इंटेंसिव भी होता है। तो उसमें क्या हुआ, दे हैव टेकन कंप्लीट वाटर आउट ऑफ ग्राउंड टेबल ऑफ पंजाब एक्सेट्रा, राइट? Also they have used so much pesticides, so many pesticides etc, that it has destroyed, it has absolutely destroyed Punjab, and a lot of cancer cases have come up, right? So I was in AIMS, so every day so many patients used to come from Punjab with cancers. Why has it happened? Because it is so resource intensive that you end up using a lot of pesticides etc, and that is the reason why it is such. An increasing stress on water resources of the country will undoubtedly require a realignment, rethinking of policies. Okay. So, because we are increasing so much stress on water resources of the country, it will undoubtedly require a realignment, rethinking of policies. Then, desertification, land degradation also expose additional threat to agriculture in the country. So, that is also very important. Then, social aspects around agriculture have been witnessing dynamic trends. Then, increasing feminization of agriculture is there, right? Yeah, we are working on that to improve the quality of that upload. So feminization of agriculture is happening. This is also a huge topic which we have to discuss. So rural urban migration is going on, rise of women headed household is going on, okay, and growth in the production of cash crops. All this requires. So if they ask you why feminization of agriculture is happening, why more and more females are coming in agriculture, so what will you reply? So you will simply reply, it's a very simple reply, all right, that more and more women headed households are there, isn't it? समझ रहे हो? So because women headed households are increasing, so they have to participate first. Lot of men are going in the urban area. As I told you, India used to be a land of villages. India will no longer be a land of villages because obviously villages are not going anywhere because majority of the people will go in the urban area, isn't it? सो अर्बन एरिया में जो जाएंगे वो प्राइमरीली मेन होंगे या वुमेन होंगी. सो आंसर इज वी हैव सीन ट्रेंड्स दैट मेन माइग्रेट मोर देन वुमेन. सो रूरल अर्बन माइग्रेशन में एंड ऑब्वियसली बिकॉज इंडिया एज अ कंट्री नीड्स मोर कैश, so we are growing cash crops, okay. So growth in the production of cash crops are there. These are all labor intensive activities. I hope it is absolutely clear. So increasing rural urban migration, rise of women headed households, growth in the production of cash crops, all these are like absolutely labor intensive, etc. So please remember that, okay. अभी देखो छोटा सा मैंने आपको यहाँ पे फैक्ट पढ़ा दिया, बट if you can remember these 3 points and you know that feminization of agriculture is happening, so you can even write a 150 word answer using these 3 lines, isn't it? बहुत easily आप एक 150 वर्ड का आंसर भी लिख सकते हो इस पे बैठ के. I hope you are understanding. You can connect it to women empowerment also. You can connect it to so many things. Shimran is asking quite a stupid question, sir. Please tell again how to hold pen. I'm writing the technical as soon as I want to write faster. Someone is just so this is how I write. I hope you can see it clearly. So this is how I hold at least these 3 fingers, but मैं तो ऐसे लिखता हूँ. So this is not at all a finger which I use, but this is in a support. If you see here, so थोड़ा सा आपको you will find it in support. All right. So this is not needed, but this is needed. So ऐसे लिख सकते हो. All right. So I hope it is absolutely clear. So this is how I will write. So if you can see, if you want to have a closer look, this is not at all needed. This is just for support. But these 4 fingers are directly holding the pen. Okay. So these 4 fingers, like if I write right now, so at least these 3 fingers are holding the pen. कई बार मैं इसको भी लिखता हूँ, अगर बहुत तेज लिखना होता है मेरे को तो मैं इसको भी यूज करता हूँ. तो दिस इज लाइक नाइट्रो बूस्ट. This is just for support. This is just touching this finger. So if I write right now, yeah, I use all the 4 fingers. I just saw that. I write like this. Okay. So this is how I write. So all the 4 fingers. So I use all the 4 fingers. Okay. To write the answers. So that is how my grip is. Okay. If I have to write really fast, then I will just close this down even faster. Okay. I can hold like this and then I can go like really, really fast. Right? Can you see the speed increased? Can you see the speed? So the speed has suddenly increased. Okay. So basically that is my like sixth gear. I don't use it usually, but last आधे घंटे एक घंटे में use कर लेता हूँ. Anyway, so I hope that part is clear. Don't use 2 finger style. This is very bad. Okay, this is very bad for your head on hand also. Again, this is a bad habit. Use this 4 finger style. It is going to help you a lot. So women participation is very important, and work is treated as extension of household, but it also increases because they earn a lot of money through these endeavors. It improves the nutritional levels in the country also. But improvement in agricultural performance is not up to the standards where we want it to be. That it actually improves the levels. समझ रहे हो एग्रीकल्चर तो इम्प्रूव हो गया बट हमारा स्टंटेड माल न्यूट्रिशन वो उतना ही है. But despite all these facts, that was a separate point of women empowerment. Why can't we make smart villages instead of smart cities? We are doing both of them. Why do we have to choose, right? So plantation forests are forests made by men consisting of trees of same species and same age. These are not normal forests. आप समझ रहे हो? So they are planted for their wood. जो wood होती है उनकी लकड़ी काटते हैं उसका mainly वो होता है timber, wood, some minor forest produce, कोई medicinal value वो सब कुछ ठीक है. So these trees are mainly planted for their commercial value. So they are forests made by man that consist generally of trees of the same species, same age. And areas used for plantation forest can be barren land, private land, village panchayat land, roadsides, canal banks, railway line, on land which is not suitable for agriculture. Isn't it? So plantation forests are those forests which are made by man consisting generally of trees of the same species and same age. So areas which are used for plantation forest can be barren land, private land, village panchayat land, roadsides, canal banks, anything. जहाँ जगह मिल गई, जहाँ पे जगह खाली थी, तो वहाँ पे प्लांटेशन लगा दिया फॉरेस्ट का. But they are not like forest, they are fake forest, okay? Because again, they are simplified version of forests, okay? This has nothing to do with plantation crops, this is plantation forests. So human intervention occurs, which lies between extreme of afforestation, unaided natural regeneration of natural forest. So this is somewhere in between. Okay. So yeah, शुभम, आई एम नॉट सेइंग कि मेरा कोई टेक्निक, मैंने कोई पैसे थोड़ी मिलेंगे मेरे को, आप वो टेक्निक यूज करोगे तो इट्स फॉर योर बेनिफिट ओनली. You can actually use this technique now. What Shubham is saying, you can measure. So write for 10 minutes and measure the number of words which you write. Okay, and don't recall from your memory. You can look at a website or a blog and you can just read from there. समझ रहे हो? So if it doesn't work, then you don't need to adopt it, but I'm pretty sure it works. Okay. So a lot of plantations are done in Europe, etc. Okay. So single species, uniform planting densities, this is there, and they are planted uniformly in row. It looks very beautiful, etc. So in forest resource assessment of FAO, forest plantation are those forests which established by planting or seeding in the process of afforestation. Don't worry about too much. They are sometimes called as human-made forest or artificial forest also. Okay, Arundhati, I'm sorry about this. Okay, I'll talk to them. So because of their increasing significance as a supply of fiber, rubber plantations were also covered under this. But anyway, so let us cover. 75% are in temperate regions, 25% are in tropical region. Okay, and ownership basically falls into government as well as large industrial corporation, sometimes to individual farmers, and we will cover it. Don't worry later on. So they are very much economic importance also. There's a lot of social dimension also, etc. So let us talk about some plantations in India. And let's say, have you heard about this eucalyptus plantation in Kerala? So this is a very notorious example of it. So, and this gives it's created issues in North India also. So the 90,000 hectare of eucalyptus plantation, they were started in 1950s. They are managed by the Kerala Forest Department. But ये क्या होता है, नॉर्थ इंडिया में कहीं पे भी ग्रो करते हैं, पूरा पानी सक कर लेते हैं. ऑलराइट, these eucalyptus plants, and they create huge havoc. So plantation units were surrounded by rubber plantations, three settlements of local people, including farmers with paddy fields, unskilled laborers, etc. And there is opportunity for seasonal employment as fire watchers, nurserymen, and for planting, tending operations. All these are there. So yes, please remember this. It is not always a good idea to do all this. All right, it's not always a good idea to have everything. So eucalyptus plantations are there, everyone. But can you see this? This is very, very important. Okay. In 2017, Karnataka government banned the fresh cultivation of eucalyptus. Can you see this? So because it created such a huge issue that it reduced the groundwater table. So please remember this. So everything is not gold just because उससे लकड़ी मिल रही है और आपको पैसे मिल रहे हैं. It might be destroying your ecosystem at the same time, right? So it is destroying the ecosystem. The Karnataka government banned the fresh cultivation, planting of species of eucalyptus because that high intensity and number of eucalyptus plantation is one of the many causes for the falling level of groundwater table, but it was stayed by High Court on lack of scientific evidence. All right. So because there was lack of scientific evidence, it was stayed by the High Court. I hope it is absolutely clear. So, but no one knows eucalyptus has surface roots only, so it technically uses less water than other tree species, and it is very adapted to grow on rain-fed soil moisture from the upper soil profile. So verdict is still out there. Have you heard about this tree called as poplar tree in Kashmir? सो जम्मू कश्मीर में क्या हुआ है, इट वाज एन ऑर्डर विच वाज पास्ड बाय हाई कोर्ट कि सारी की सारी रशियन पॉपुलर ट्रीज की जो फीमेल स्पीसीज हैं उनको काट दो. बट इट इज़ नॉट फ्रॉम रशिया, इट वाज इंट्रोड्यूस्ड फ्रॉम यूएस. इट इज़ लोकली कॉल्ड एज रूसी फ्रास. ओके. इट टेक्स 10 to 15 years to grow as compared to Kashmir poplar which takes 30 to 40 years. All right. तो जो भी ऐसी, these are all example of, by the way, invasive species, exotic species, whatever term you want to call them with. Okay. So all these are example of invasive species. Okay. So poplar trees are used in timber construction industries to make box for packing apples, etc. And wood is also needed for pencil, plywood, etc. And but this shed a cotton-like material carrying seeds during summers, it leads to huge allergy, respiratory disorders. समझ रहे हो? अब समझ में आ गया क्यों काट दिए? So this release some cotton-like material, so it leads to huge allergy, huge respiratory disorders, and locals, tourists, they could not stand it, so that's why it was banned. So it can have an impact on the eco-sensitive zone of the Kashmir also, and the poplar trees implies environmental impact can be huge, right? I hope, please remember this. Alien species, if it is introduced purely for an economical value, it can backfire very, very badly. So please remember that alien species, if it is introduced purely for the economical value, it can backfire like really bad. I don't know about geography optional, I'm sorry about it. I just know about my subjects. So urban ecosystem, cities, towns, urban areas made by man. By the way, urban area house more than 54% of the global population. Can you see this? So already world is a urban place, not a rural place, because more people live in the urban area than in the rural area. I hope it is absolutely clear. India में 69% people live in the rural area, 31% live in the urban area. But by 2050, it will change to 50-50. Okay. So more people will live in urban area than in rural area. So cities, towns, urban areas made by man are called as urban ecosystems. In urban areas, they house more than 54% of the global population, and this proportion is expected to increase to 66% in 2050. So urban areas account for only less than 1% of the Earth's land surface. All right. So just less than 1% of the Earth's land surface, but they account for 67 to 76% of global energy consumption, 71% of fossil fuel related CO2 emission, 60% of all residential water use, 80% of the wood used for industrial purposes. All these are huge issues, right? So please remember this. So more than 54% of the global population expected to increase to 66% in 2050, but they are just less than 1% of the land surface. आप समझ रहे हो? 1% से भी कम एरिया में 66% लोग रह रहे हैं. Imagine that. So obviously it will create a huge issue for the environment. लोग ठुस ठुस के भरे हुए हैं उस एरिया में, right? Less than 1% एरिया में 66% ऑफ ह्यूमैनिटी रह रही है, और बाकी 99% एरिया में जस्ट 33% ऑफ ह्यूमैनिटी रह रही है. So they account for almost three-fourths of global energy consumption, 76% of CO2 emission, 60% of all water use, 80% of wood used for industrial purpose, etc. These are all artificial ecosystems, isn't it? So urban area as such does not exist in nature. This is purely an artificial ecosystem. So cities are the major centers of environmental problems. Urban areas are increasingly engines of innovation, socio-economic development to mitigate and adapt to local, regional, global, social, environmental challenges. And with more and more people living in cities, urban areas are increasingly very important key to regional and global sustainability. Okay, so this is very, very important. Okay, please remember this. If you want to have proper sustainable development, you just cannot ignore the urban areas because they are going to be a huge burden otherwise. Now, what are the characteristics? There is very high density of population. There is no doubt about it. There is crowding of all the spaces. There is lack of adequate housing. There is lack of adequate living space. Right? There is increase in the slum areas because people are not able to afford the rent and housing. There are concept of high-rise buildings. There are well developed roads, right? There are well developed means of transportation, communication, etc., isn't it? So high density population, crowding of all spaces, lack of adequate housing and living space, increase in the number of slums, high rise buildings, well developed roads, well developed means of transportation, well developed means of communication. All these are the various things which one needs to see. All these are observed. So, high density population, crowding of all spaces, lack of adequate housing, living space, increase in slums, high rise buildings, well developed roads, well developed means of transportation, communication, etc. Now let's talk about advantages. Provides employment opportunities to people. All right. So that is a huge advantage. Obviously, that is why people go to urban area, right? They don't get adequate employment. This is number one reason for migration is they are not satisfied with the rural life. They want to have better life. They want to have more money. They want to have more income. They want to have better schools, better colleges, better hospitals, better amenities, right? इसीलिए तो जाते हैं. वरना if you provide all of them in the, let's say, पूरा करके एक स्कीम होती थी अब्दुल कलाम जी के टाइम पे, प्रोविजन ऑफ urban amenities in rural areas करके. So if you can provide all the urban amenities in rural areas, you will realize that no one wants to go to the urban area, right? Everyone wants to live in the rural area if you are from rural area. Then ease of accessibility to basic services like education, healthcare, etc. Then provides choice of services and quality. Then contributes to economic development and economy. Okay. So provides employment opportunities to people, ease of accessibility to basic services like education, healthcare, provides choice of services and quality, contributes to economic development and economy. So all these are like quite important topics. Shivam Singh is asking, sir, please take a course on contemporary issue. Yes, I will take this course. Don't worry about it at all. This course will be taken. Disadvantage, there is a very high rate of pollution. So you will find that rural area, the air is quite clean, right? And the water is also relatively cleaner. Soil is also relatively clean. Relative is the keyword. But if you go to urban area, you will find huge amount of pollution, huge amount of issues, etc. Okay, so produces the maximum amount of waste, municipal waste, solid waste, e-waste, etc. Pollutes atmosphere, rivers, lakes, underground water, land, etc. And there is high noise pollution, high rates of crimes, scarcity of water, hygiene. Okay, so there is high rate of pollution, produces the maximum amount of waste, municipal waste, solid waste, pollutes atmosphere, rivers, lakes, underground water, land. There is high noise pollution, high rates of crimes, scarcity of water, hygiene issues, etc. Okay, so please focus on this. So ecosystems that are midway between natural and urban ecosystems are called as rural ecosystems. All right. So those ecosystems um, which are between natural and urban ecosystems, they are rural, they are in harmony with nature, etc. Don't have to worry about it. Agriculture is the main source of livelihood. Sufficiently spaced houses. Houses can be small, thatched mud houses. Okay, families are joined. People consume locally available products. So have you heard about Mahatma Gandhi's philosophy? So that is also there. Okay. So that is also somewhat like that. Key make the village as the center of everything. Less air, less water, less land, less noise pollution. And many products are produced at homes itself. There is lesser contamination, less tension, less stress, etc. So all these are very important point. अरे सर हिस्ट्री क्यों डाल रहे हैं यहाँ पे? विल डिस्कस ऑल अभी ये पढ़ने तो काफ़ी बचा हुआ है. So disadvantages are inadequate income. That is why people go to urban area. Lack of adequate transportation, lack of adequate quality facilities for education, healthcare, etc. So that is very important. Now, what is aquaculture? So aquaculture is the breeding, rearing, harvesting of fish, shellfish, algae, other organisms. All right. So that is called as aquaculture. So that is very important. So breeding, rearing, harvesting of fish, shellfish, algae. So that is considered as part of aquaculture. It is a method which is used to produce food, other commercial products, restore habitat, replenish wild stocks, rebuild populations, right? So aquaculture is good. It's not like people brand it very bad. So aquaculture is the breeding, rearing, harvesting of fish, shellfish, algae in all types of water environment. Okay. So it is a method used to produce food, other commercial products, restore habitat, replenish wild stocks, rebuild population of threatened, endangered species. It is also referred to as fish farming by some people. Okay. So all these are very, very important. Okay. So yeah, so इसको अपने अच्छे से एक बार याद रख लेना एंड वी विल गो अबाउट इट. चलो आगे बढ़ते हैं. So it can be fresh water, marine or brackish water. These are the three types. Okay. And freshwater aquaculture, it's not agriculture. These are like allied activities. समझ रहे हो? Horticulture. These are all allied activities. So freshwater aquaculture is carried out either in fish ponds, fish pens, fish cages, in rice paddies, etc. And brackish water aquaculture is done mainly in fish ponds located in the coastal areas. So marine culture employs either fish cages or substrates in water. In land for mollusks, seaweeds like stakes, ropes, rafts, etc. Then culture systems also varies. You just go for it. Cover these points. Okay. So it is usually done for domestic demand like freshwater pond culture, rice fish. Have you seen this rice fish culture? It is also called as integrated fish farming. तो जहाँ पे राइस कल्चर होता है वहाँ पे अपन पानी में थोड़ा फिशेस वगैरह को भी डाल देते हैं. ऑलराइट. Then you have brackish water, finfish culture, okay, mariculture. There are different types of culture. Don't worry about it. And there are almost 600 species which are currently farmed all over the world. And it is practiced by everyone from poorest of the farmers till MNC. Okay, so sure, I'll will communicate that. Sorry about this if it is happening. Okay. And the methods of farm to table process in aquaculture can differ from species to species. That is very, very important. There are four stages of the production chain. Okay. सो हैचरी होती है. उसमें क्या होता है? ब्रीडिंग ऑफ फिश होता है, हैचिंग ऑफ एग्स होता है, राइट. सो रेयरिंग ऑफ फिशेस थ्रू लाइफ स्टेजेस एक्सेट्रा. सी पिस्सी जो आप टर्म बोल रहे हो, ओके, दैट इज पिस्सी का मतलब, दैट इज मुरली पांडे इज आस्किंग पिस्सी कल्चर और एक्वाकल्चर में क्या डिफरेंस होता है. Pisciculture is just by fish. Aquaculture can talk about mollusks also. Let's say seaweed also, algae also, different crabs. आप समझ रहे हो? एक्वा मतलब पानी हो गया और फिश का, पिसी का मतलब फिश हो गया. सो एक्वाकल्चर का वन ऑफ द सब टाइप इज पिसिकल्चर. ठीक है. Then you have feed mills. So feed required for growing the aquatic animals are produced in the feed mills. Now farm, the animals which are transferred to the farm once they have matured enough, okay, they are grown to the harvest size using the feed from the feed mills. Then processing facility. So fully grown aquatic animals or fish are then transported to a processing facility, right? फिर वहाँ से process हो जाएंगे वहाँ पे, and they are sent to food retailers, etc. So that is how this entire chain works. So aquaculture just produced 3 million tons in 1970s, but in 2017, world aquaculture production reached 80 million tons. Okay, and contribution of aquaculture as a proportion of total production of aquatic animals has reached 47%. And when production from China, which is the world's largest aquaculture producer, is excluded, 30% of total fish production is derived. Okay, so Asia Pacific region continues to dominate the aquaculture. It accounts for 92% of the global production. Okay, so you can remember this. So it continues to dominate the aquaculture. It accounts for 92% of the global production. Now, obviously, India, across the world, you will find that fish is very important source of food, right? India, maybe if you go to any coastal state you go to, whether it is Andhra Pradesh, whether it is Tamil Nadu, whether it is Kerala, whether it is Karnataka, whether it is Goa, Maharashtra, whenever you are near the coast, you will always find that West Bengal, Odisha, wherever, okay, you'll always find that fish is very important part of the culture, right? So seafood provides excellent nutrition. Okay. It is a good source of proteins. Fish is very good source of protein, fatty acids, vitamins, minerals, etc. And aquatic plants like seaweed, etc. They are important source for minerals also. Like seaweeds are very much known for iodine content, and they provide nutrition, livelihood, other important industrial uses, etc. Aquaculture is also a sustainable option for consumers. So seafood is highly resource efficient. It has the highest protein compared to other non-veg foods. Okay, so seafood is highly important. So please remember that. All right. It has also the lowest feed to conversion ratio among the same forms of protein. And due to the ever growing population, overexploitation of oceans, aquaculture is an alternative source of seafood. Okay, so please remember it is assumed that 62% of all seafood produced for human consumption, it will come from aquaculture. Can you imagine that? So actual उससे नहीं आ रहा आपके समुद्र से या रिवर से, जो 62% of your seafood है, that is actually coming from aquacultures. I hope you understand. And these are all artificial conversion. Okay, so approximately 10 billion people will be living by 2050. So animal protein demand will be very high. Okay, so aquaculture is very necessary to efficiently complement wild caught fish along with the, like, to increase the amount of फीड टू कन्वर्जन हो गया ना, मतलब क्या हुआ उसमें, जितनी ज्यादा फीड दोगे उतना ज्यादा बेकार है ना आपके लिए. फीड मिनिमम होनी चाहिए, कन्वर्जन मैक्सिमम होना चाहिए. तो एनीवे, aquaculture has much lower greenhouse gas emission also. It employs 26 million workers, provides huge diversity, okay, huge employment opportunity, etc. Farming fish responsibility, sustainably is very important for us. Now, we are fishery and aquaculture is very important sector of food production. It also provides livelihood support, gainful employment to more than 14 million people. We have diverse resources which range from deep seas to lakes in the mountains, and more than 10% of the global biodiversity in terms of fish, shellfish species, etc. All right. So, two types of aquaculture are practiced in India: freshwater aquaculture, brackish water aquaculture. All right. So, there are two types of aquaculture which are practiced in India. One is called as freshwater, one is called as brackish water. So, freshwater aquaculture involves like carp, katla. नाम सुना है इनका? Katla, rohu. These are all freshwater fishes. Okay. So very commonly done in North India. Brackish water aquaculture, which likes like sea-like fish, like bass, mullet, tiger shrimp, mud crabs, etc. And it is done in West Bengal, Andhra Pradesh, Kerala, Goa, which has like a lot of exposure to sea. Now they use to feed the fish like oil cakes, buffalo meat, muscle meat, right? राइस ब्रान, ये सब खिलाते हैं फिश को, और फिर फिश बड़ी होती है और फिर फिश को बेच देते हैं. So it can be blended with tapioca paste also, so that fish eats it very well. So water in which fish are farmed is very important. Okay, so you need to properly manage water hardness, acidity, alkalinity, etc. Contaminants, right? अगर एक बार भी अगर आपका contamination ज़्यादा हो गया, dissolved oxygen कम हो गई, so it will create huge issue, isn't it? So industrial chemicals, pesticides, अगर एक बार भी आपका कोई contamination हो गया तो it will lead to death of all the fishes, or primarily most of the fishes. You have to ensure that there is enough dissolved oxygen also, right? Otherwise fish will not be able to survive in such an environment. So common chemicals which are used in aquaculture are EDTA for removing water hardness, so sodium nitrate for algae formation, ammonium chloride for boosting water fertility, formaldehyde, etc. All these are like extremely important points. All right. Now, more than 50 different types of fish, shellfish products are being exported to 75 countries around the world. Fish and fish products have emerged as the largest group in the agricultural exports. आपको पता है ना, because we have 7,512 kilometer long coastline and we have tropical and subtropical environment. We are a huge superpower for fish production. आप समझ रहे हो? If things are done right, because we have a huge coastline, we have a huge great environment for fishes to grow. We have a country where fish is part of the culture. We have a lot of opportunities for aquaculture. So it's right now contributing to 0.9% of GDP. So, but it can easily do it much more than that. So environmental impact, seaweed culture. So okay, so it can, seaweed culture is there, then coastal fish ponds. You don't have to worry about it. But what it does is that it occupies some like pristine reef, so it destroys the environment. Okay, so there are public health risks, etc. Destruction of ecosystem, mangrove ecosystem, especially in coastal fish ponds. Okay, so non-sustainable, very lot of issues. Fresh water में health risk to farm workers, brackish water में can lead to salinization, acidification of soils. Okay, then there is market competition, especially for export produce, feed and fertilizer availability. And there is a possible consumer resistance also. So all these are like very very important points. Then effluent drainage is high in BOD, suspended solids, market competition, right? BOD बढ़ जाता है तो pollution होता है, and so on and so forth. Pristine का मतलब होता है pure, unadulterated. So all these issues are there. Lot of sediments come because of fecal and waste feed, right? It builds up, can lead to huge issues. Now, what is a dam? See, dam is a barrier or a structure is built across the river in order to store water, right? It's very common sense. That is what a dam is used for. It's a barrier or a structure which is built across a river to store the water. So dams, reservoirs, diversions, these are the same purpose. They store water for domestic use consumption. Okay. So these structures will help in controlling the floods, producing hydroelectricity, supplying water for irrigation, supporting recreational activities like tourism, boating, etc. Okay. So controlling of floods, producing hydroelectricity, supplying water for irrigation, industry, supporting recreational activities like tourism, boating, etc. So advantages are generation of hydroelectricity, which is a renewable resource. Okay. It's a cleaner means to produce electricity, right? Obvious सी बात है, thermal power plants are very much polluting. You know that lot of pollution is done by them. There is not a single gas which is not released by them. They're hugely polluting. It makes water available for irrigation to nearby and faraway areas. It makes water available for domestic consumption. It provides a means of inland navigation. It provides a means of income to the state through recreational activities. So all these are like extremely important points. Okay. Generation of hydroelectricity, making water available for irrigation to nearby faraway areas, makes water available for domestic consumption, provide a means of inland navigation, right? सुना होगा आपने सब कुछ. Provides a means of income through recreational activities. If you have all these dams, reservoirs, diversions, etc. What are the disadvantages of constructing them? So construction of dams involves submergence of large areas which have forests. It destroys many natural habitats. Then acquisition of land for dams, it leads to loss of homes, livelihood for the affected people. Then large dams include safety issues. Large dams also trigger earthquakes. And during heavy monsoons, sudden release of water from dams can lead to flooding. So all these are like important points. Okay. So construction of dams involves submergence of large areas, right? Large dams include safety issues, can trigger earthquakes, and sudden release of water from dams can lead to flooding. All these are very very important points. Okay. So please remember that. So I hope you like today's class, and I hope it was worth your time. Okay. So today we discussed very important. Okay. What do you mean by farm gate value? ओके. सो जितनी भी आपकी प्रोडक्शन हुआ है एग्रीकल्चर में या फिर जो हम एक्वाकल्चर डिस्कस कर रहे हैं, इफ यू टेक दैट एंड वट एवर लेट्स से प्रोड्यूस 100 रुपीज़, बट उसको जो बेचने की कॉस्ट है मान लो 90 रुपीज़ है, तो फार्म गेट वैल्यू इज 10 रुपीज़. समझ गए? तो उसकी मार्केटिंग कॉस्ट होगी, उसकी ट्रांसपोर्टेशन कॉस्ट होगी, सेलिंग कॉस्ट होगी, एक्सेट्रा. सो जो प्रोडक्शन की है उसकी, सो दैट इज कॉल्ड एज द फार्म गेट वैल्यू. सो लेट्स से आपने प्रोडक्ट तो आपका 100 रुपये का है, बट उसका 90 रुपये बाकी चला जाएगा. ऑलराइट. So that is about it. And yeah, it's 8 o'clock now here. So सुबह 6 बजे, 8 बज गए. And for me Sunday has just started. और Sunday at like right now 1:30 होगा वहाँ पे. What what should we do in 50-50 situation? Take risk? Yes, 100%. Attempt all the questions which are at 50-50 risks. Okay. Each and every question needs to be attempted if you are at 50-50. There is no doubt about it. Okay. So not even a single doubt in my mind. So thank you and have an awesome day.